You actually said something that really intrigued me. There's still 28 pages of the 9/11 Commission report that have never been revealed.
That's right, and they should reveal it.
I got the impression that you knew something maybe we don't know about the Saudis.
I think you will
involvement.
find out when that's opened. I think you're going to find out that Saudi Arabia had a lot to do with the ripping down of the World Trade Center.
Would you open that if you became president?
I would open it, yeah.
You would? Let the American people know.
What I'm saying, and look, we attacked Iraq.
Yeah.
But Iraq didn't knock down the World Trade Center. When you open up those pages, you're going to find out who did. Iraq did not knock down the World Trade Center. Where did these people go when they got on the airplanes? Do you know where they went? Do you know where they went? They went, a lot of them went to Saudi Arabia, okay? They didn't go back to Iraq. They went to Saudi Arabia. Now, there are sealed documents right now that nobody wants to allow to be open, that talk very much about the subject. I'd like to see what it says. You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center, because they have papers in there that are very secret. You may find it's the Saudis, okay? But you will find out.
I'm Thomas Massey from Kentucky. We've had a narrative in the media and in the press and in the collective American conscience of what happened that day, but I don't think it's fully informed, and it won't be fully informed until everybody gets to see these 28 pages. Also, I want to talk about the experience of sitting down and reading these 28 pages. It's in a room where it's soundproof, and you're escorted in there and you're escorted out, and there are no notes. But this is something that's sort of shocking when you read it. As I read it, and we all had our own experience, I had to stop every couple pages and just sort of absorb and try to rearrange my understanding of history for the past 13 years and the years leading up to that. It challenges you to rethink everything. And so I think the whole country needs to go through that. It's going to be difficult and it could be embarrassing, but that is no reason to keep the truth from the American people.
Also, what really hurt me was to wonder, why did my government keep this from me for 13 years? You know, there will be anger, frustration, and embarrassment when these 28 pages finally come out. This needs to come out because there are things being litigated in court right now that pertain to these 28 pages.
I'm Walter Jones. I represent the 3rd Congressional District of North Carolina in the United States House of Representatives. The families deserve to know what's in the 28 pages, and the American people do as well. There is no democracy, there is no republic without the American people knowing the truth about 9/11. The families have suffered long enough. The American people have been denied the truth long enough. It is time for the truth to come out.
You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center, because they have papers in there that are very secret. You may find it's the Saudis, okay? But you will find out.
The Bush people do not want it released.
The Bush people do not want it released.
It's not a national security issue, but it would be embarrassing to the previous administration if this information is open for the public. The American people have the right to know the truth and to know the relationship with the Saudis at the time of the Bush administration. The 9/11 families have a right to know what's in those 28 pages, and so do the American people. President Obama, I don't know why he does not. I don't know what kind of arrangement he has with former President George Bush.
I don't know what kind of arrangement he has with former President George Bush.
But the Bush administration, I have an article that was 2003, CBS National News, saying that George Bush said, no, we don't want to release the 28 pages. I know why.
Mr. Obama does not owe the Bushes anything. Mr. Obama does not owe the Bushes anything.
You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center, because they have papers in there that are very secret. You may find it's the Saudis, okay? But you will find out.
And there is no excuse. There is no excuse. America will fail and fall if we don't uphold the truth.
You asked also whether or not the Saudis might be playing both sides, calling for disclosure, but yet behind the scenes asking for the information to remain classified. I could not see, if I was part of the Saudi royal family and government, I would not be calling for the disclosure of this information. Let's put it that way. So I guess. Yeah, I suspect duplicity.
This report came out when President Bush was President of the United States. His administration reviewed the report, he's the one that recommended that the 28 pages be classified. It was President Bush. Remember that, because that's very important. And I can't say a whole lot more than what I've said, Stephen said, or Thomas has said. But quite frankly, remember who was the President of the United States when this report came out, and remember that that president decided to classify the 28 pages.
There are stark unanswered questions remaining now after almost 14 years after 9/11. Those questions include, did the 19 hijackers act alone, or did they have facilitators within the United States who made their plot successful? The official position of your government is that they acted alone, and all efforts to provide the information that would challenge that assumption have thus far been frustrated. Why has the United States government, through 2 administrations, gone to such lengths to cover up and now engage in aggressive deception to keep this information from the American people? The frustrating thing for those 6,000 Americans is that there is compelling evidence that Saudi Arabia was a co-conspirator, but their government is withholding it from them.
28 redacted pages, which stick out like a sore thumb. Potential sources of foreign support for the September 11th hijackers, classified by the Bush administration.
If these pages were to be released, okay, we could hold them accountable, the people that financed 9/11.
Bill Doyle's son Joey was working in the World Trade Center that day and was among the nearly 3,000 killed. President Obama came to Ground Zero and met with 9/11 families, including Doyle.
He said, Bill, I promise you, I'm going to release those 28 pages. And I said, you know something? I'm going to hold you to your word. And I said, I'm not going away.
After reading the report, there's nothing about national security. It's about relationships. It's about agencies within our own government and also relationships with foreign governments.
The Obama White House not only refused to comment for this story, this group of 9/11 families says the White House has ignored the last 3 letters they've written the president on this subject.
He broke his promise. That's probably the best way to say it. He broke his promise.
Both the Obama White House and President George W. Bush declined to comment for this story.
When former President George W. Bush classified the 28 pages of the joint inquiry, he effectively protected the people who gave financial, logistical aid to at least some of the 19 hijackers while they were here in this country. He effectively denied the 9/11 victims' families and survivors and the American people the truth about who was behind the worst terrorist attack on American soil. By hiding the truth about who financed 9/11, the guilty parties have gone unpunished, free to continue financing terrorist organizations, and as a consequence, we have witnessed the creation of branches of al-Qaeda, like ISIS, grow at an alarming rate. Since my husband was murdered, all I have ever wanted is justice. The thousands of victims' families and survivors I represent also want justice for the murder of their loved ones and the pain and suffering inflicted on us. When the Twin Towers imploded, our loved ones were literally torn to pieces and flung from river to river on the streets and on the rooftops of Lower Manhattan. They were returned to us in pieces spanning years. Or for families like mine, they never came home to a final resting place at all. Or for families like mine, they never came home to a final resting place at all. We want the truth, and to hold accountable those who supported the 19 hijackers and enabled al-Qaeda. I'm going to repeat myself here. We want justice. We want accountability. We want the truth. As you've heard here today, there is no threat to national security to release these 28 pages. So therefore, there is no reason to keep them classified.
As a child who lost her father at the age of 4 on 9/11, I have a different perspective than all of you here today. For years, with tears in my eyes, I watched my friends dance with their fathers at their bat mitzvahs and Sweet 16 celebrations. I will never have a father-daughter dance. My father never got to see me compete on my horse, cheer me on at a lacrosse game, or hear me speak at my middle school graduation. My life is and will always be bittersweet. When I dream of my wedding day, I will carry his picture and wish he were there with me, walking down the aisle and taking me by the hand onto the dance floor. Because of terrorism, I turned from a happy-go-lucky little girl with no worries to one who couldn't leave her mom's side for fear of the bad guys coming back. Mr. President, please declassify the 28 pages that hold truths regarding who was behind my father's murder for me and for the other 3,000 children who lost a parent on 9/11.
President Obama, you hear us. Senate, you hear us. Everyone else, you hear us. Get on the phone. Call the people that need to be called. Read the pages if you have access to the papers. Don't play games. Be serious. Do your part. This is our country, land of our birth. This is our country, the proudest on earth. We stood as children pledging the allegiance. Said we're America the bold. But this is our country. Only if we have it as our country and we hold on to that liberty and strongly do what needs to be done. President Obama, I ask you again, just do the right thing.
You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center because they have papers in there that are very secret. You may find it's the Saudis, okay? But you will find out.
Over a decade ago, a bipartisan congressional committee investigated the 9/11 attacks and wrote a report. 28 pages from that report have never been released to the public. We're here today to call for a release of those 28 pages. The survivors, civilian heroes, and families of the victims of September 11 terrorist attacks, some of whom are here today, deserve the full truth.
After personally and carefully reviewing these 28 pages, I believe, and Walter and all the other legislators that have read these feel confident that these can be declassified without harming U.S. intelligence sources or methods. Indeed, I firmly believe that the information contained in these 28 pages will better inform our national security protocols.
Some of the best intelligence we have is in these 28 pages. Some of the best intelligence we have is in these 28 pages. And most of our colleagues in the House have not read them, yet they're pretending to be informed on these issues and having a discussion about how to prevent the next 9/11, yet turning a blind eye to these 28 pages.
And calling on the President to please keep his word to the 9/11 families and declassify the 28 pages. I have read the 28 pages, and the 28 pages have nothing to do with national security, nothing, or I wouldn't be standing here. It's all about relationships and involvement in 9/11.
Iraq did not knock down the World Trade Center. Where did these people go when they got on the airplanes? Do you know where they went? Do you know where they went? A lot of them went to Saudi Arabia, okay? They didn't go back to Iraq. They went to Saudi Arabia. Now, there are sealed documents right now that nobody wants to allow to be open that talk very much about the subject. I'd like to see what it says. You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center because they have papers in there that are very secret. You may find it's the Saudis, okay? But you will find out.